Hey Bat fans, Luke here, ready to bat chat about another Bat book, and today we're going to take a look at the story Batman Year 2. This version of Batman Year 2 is one that's been recently recollected. This is a 30th anniversary deluxe edition, which has the story Batman Year 2, also known as the story Fear the Reaper, as well as its sequel, Full Circle. Fear the Reaper, found in Detective Comics issues 575 to 578. Full Circle was just a simple one collected single story. And what this primarily deals with is the interaction between Batman and the character, the Reaper. So why talk about this book? Not too long ago, this issue here, Batman Detective Comics Annual Number 2, was released. I want to say it was like a little bit over a month ago, maybe a month and a half, 2 months from now. So if you're watching this video later in the future, just know that at the time of this recording, Batman Detective Comics Annual Number 2 was released not too long ago. And not to go too much into what occurred in this issue, what this issue is basically a standalone story for now, where Batman encounters the Reaper character. And why do I want to talk about this? The Reaper character, if you have no Bat history, if you're coming into Batman relatively no Bat history, don't know much about Batman, specifically pre-New 52, you won't really understand in full context the Reaper character, because in this, the Reaper is actually, in this particular story, is being kind of controlled, or being used, might be a better term. If you read the book, you understand why, by the Reaper's son. I think it's Judith, I can't remember, Joseph Caspian. Can't remember for sure. Well, the Reaper in this character, you actually see there's one person who's kind of using it as a disguise, but you later see Caspian use the Reaper as kind of like this big robot mechanism to go after Batman. And if you're reading this purely on its own, you really want to understand the context between what's being told in the story, because it's actually referenced, and you see the Black Case book. If you know the Black Case book, know that that's something Grant Morrison put together. Collected a whole bunch of stories that inspired him to write the story R.I.P. But in this case, the Black Case book is kind of like a collection of all Batman's early encounters early in his career. And when he hears the Reapers in Europe, he goes back and pulls out the old Black Case book. So you really won't understand some of the context that Tomasi is playing with when reading this story on its own without knowing the full context of the Reaper character. So that enters or segues into Batman Year 2. So Batman Year 2, written by Mike W. Barr, with art initially by Alan Davis, and then toward the very end of the Fear the Reaper story, Todd McFarlane. Yes, Todd McFarlane actually does the art. Todd McFarlane actually doing the art in this particular cover. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, if I'm doing my Batman timeline, this is an easy one. Yeah, this would go right after Year 1, and this was supposed to be somewhat the spiritual successor to Batman Year 1. This is Batman in his second year, being Batman, still trying to figure it his way, and hasn't really fully developed all the things that makes Batman Batman. Well, not so much. Not that easy. There was a story called 0 Hour that kind of resets certain things in the DCU's continuity, and in doing so, Batman Year 2, specifically with the Reaper character and Joe Chill as well, kind of got pushed aside. So if you're doing your timeline, out goes Batman Year 2, and you can go ahead and insert, the Long Halloween. Actually, really nicely, by the way, if you're just doing your chronology, things kind of flow really, really nicely. So Batman Year 2 kind of has that in context. It's Batman versus the Reaper. This story, for those who are Batman purists, are kind of a little wary of this story. Mainly because what you see in this cover. The cover does not lie. You see Batman toting a gun. If you remember, if you actually read the the story Batman and Robin Eternal, at the very end of issue 1, there was this image of Batman holding a smoking gun. And I remember a lot of people wondering, like, oh man, that is clearly a reference to this story. If you know what goes on in this story, what the heck are they going to do? Well, that connection, really both ways, didn't really happen. But make no mistake, this cover does not lie. This is Batman actually touting a gun, and he does more than tout it. He actually uses it a couple times. Doesn't kill anybody in here, but he comes really close. Really close. Was actually going to do it, but someone stepped up and actually stepped in and actually killed the person he was going to kill anyway. So intent was there. He was going to do it. This was no, kind of like the 10 Nights of the Beast, where he leaves KG Beast. Doesn't kill him, but doesn't help him, and clearly intent was, I'm going to keep him locked up in the room, and he's probably not going to make it. I'm not going to help him, but I didn't kill him. But this is different. The intent was there. He was going to do it. He was going to break, but someone else intervened. So while the person, we'll get into that in a minute, it makes little people who are Batman loyalists kind of worry a little bit about it. The story itself, again, this is set in context, second year of Batman. The story's not really trying to kind of depict the second year itself. It's just in context. This is where the story kind of takes place. We have this character, the Reaper, and the Reaper is very similar to Batman. The person behind the Reaper persona is an individual named Judas Caspian. Judas Caspian is a very wealthy socialite, very similar to Bruce Wayne. And their paths are more similar than you think. Both are vigilantes, whereas Judas Caspian, the moniker behind him, again, he's this wealthy socialite. He has a daughter, Rachel, which has a pretty big part in this story. And their connection parallels. Both had a significant trauma with death caused by the criminal element in Gotham. Whereas Bruce Wayne obviously had the death of his parents, killed by Joe Chill, who has a big part in the story. Obviously, we'll get to him in a minute. Whereas Judas, what he has done, what happened to him is he was walking down the hallway. He was walking down, not really in an alleyway, as much as he's walking down in the neighborhood, and they got mugged, and the mugger actually killed his wife in front of his daughter. So both those motivations played into both of them donning their respective personas: Bruce Wayne, Batman; Judas Caspian, the Reaper. The parallels continue, whereas Batman initially has kind of like that moral code that gets tested a lot in this story, and I'll get into that in a minute, I promise. He won't kill. Whereas Judas Caspian, in the Reaper persona, is going against the criminal element, and he has no qualm about killing at all. He kills people, and he does so very violently. One of the things you see in this book, which is kind of interesting, they kind of, not full-blown blood and gore, but you see the way that the Reaper actually takes people out in this, and it's done so in a pretty graphic manner for the times. Slashing, people's guts getting slashed, some portray blood, not graphic to a point. You actually see some gunshot wounds. As you see there, impalings. The Reaper has no problem with killing, and that's his way. Hey, we're going to take the criminals out, get them off the streets. They're going to pay, and this is how my way is going to go. Or again, where initially Batman does not do that. And Rachel Caspian comes into this, introduced very early in the story. I almost want to say within the first 5 pages. Rachel Caspian initially is getting ready to become a nun. And as the story progresses, she has a relationship with Leslie Tompkins. And through that, we have the introduction between Rachel and Bruce. To the point where their relationship blossoms, they began becoming romantically involved, which causes Rachel to not pursue being a nun anymore, and they actually become engaged. So that part of the story is going along as the Reaper character's out. We obviously have Bruce Wayne, Batman, and Bruce Wayne and Rachel's relationship flourishing. You can see obviously a parallel that's going to go at some point, form an apex toward the end of the story, which actually does. Gets weaved throughout the rest of this story. Eventually, the Reaper and Batman do come head to head, and initially, to be perfectly honest, Batman gets his ass whooped. To a point, he comes back to the Batcave. He's badly injured, and he realizes this is a threat that got to be taken out, and the only way I'm going to have to be able to do this is through the use of a gun. He actually pulls out the gun that killed his parents, and he's going to use this to take out the Reaper threat. So that's all pretty much in the first part of the story. The story keeps on developing to where Batman comes up through a way to take out the Reaper, and the way he's going to do it, he's going to team up with members of the criminal underground, because now they have kind of like a shared enemy. Batman realizes that the Reaper's got to be taken off the street. If that means I got to form somewhat of an alliance early on, initially, with the crime world in Gotham to take care of this threat, I mean, so be it. The criminal underworld don't want Batman around either, so don't get it twisted. But they don't want the Reaper either. So initially, there's somewhat of an alliance, but behind Batman's back, they find a way to actually take out Batman, who they want Batman to take out the Reaper, and the person they enlist to work with Batman initially early on is the character none other than Joe Chill. So Joe Chill is going to team up with Batman. Batman, obviously, when he finds out that they want him to work with Joe Chill, very reluctant to do so. But initially what he says, you know what, hey, for right now, and this is early on in the story, okay, I'll work with you, but we're going to take care of the Reaper. I'm going to come back and I'm going to deal with you later. But unfortunately, that gets kind of put to the test as they keep working together. And Batman's really desire, just his tolerance to working with a person like Joe Chill, he just can't take it anymore. So they actually get to Crime Alley, where Joe Chill actually killed Thomas and Martha. You actually see here as they're actually going through, he snaps. To put it bluntly, he gets Joe Chill to the place where he actually murdered his parents, and he snaps. He has the gun that Joe Chill used to kill his parents. He reveals himself to be Bruce Wayne, gets Joe Chill on his knees, has the gun put right to his head, was getting ready to pull the trigger, and then the Reaper shows up and actually shoots Joe Chill on the spot. Make no mistake in this, Batman was going to shoot Joe Chill. The Reaper just beat him to the punch. The intent was there. He was going across the line. So this is where the Batman purists, while you can't necessarily maybe not sympathize with what's going on in Bruce's actions, but for the whole persona and the moral compass of Batman, this is a little weird. It makes people a little uneasy. This scene actually plays a huge part in the sequel to this Full Circle. We'll get into that in a minute. So the story goes on right after their epic encounter with Joe Chill and Bruce Wayne. Batman and the Reaper continue their fight, and then they get to the top of this Wayne Foundation building that's actually being built by Bruce for Leslie Tompkin to use, like one of her hospitals. They get to the top of the building, and then it gets to the point where the Reaper's hanging off the top, and Batman even attempts to save him, but the Reaper falls to his death. The fallout from this is a little traumatic, obviously, for Bruce, in that Rachel Caspian realizes what her father has done as the Reaper, and the way for her to repent and pay for the sins of her father is to go back and commit to being a nun. breaks off the relationship with Bruce and then recommits herself, her vows to be a nun. And that's the way that story kind of ends. Goes into full circle. The full circle, we actually see Dick Grayson as Robin in here. And what occurs here, the Reaper's shown back up again. And the Reaper in this case is, he's killing all these prostitutes. And we see this little boy that's kind of tagged along throughout the story. We'll get into him in a minute. But we find out that, again, the Reaper's come back. And when Commissioner Gordon brings this up to Batman's attention, Batman's like, no way. I saw the Reaper fall and die 40 stories above to his death. This is obviously the copycat. This isn't the real deal. But it turns out that it looks honestly like the Reaper's come back. And Batman's kind of struggling with this. Rachel Caspian comes back in the story, and then she worries that the Reaper's back and that maybe her father is not dead. So she kind of wants to reconnect with her father initially. But we find out it's actually a ruse. Do you remember that scene where I told you that part where Joe Chill dying will play a big part in this story? And we have that little kid here. Well, that little kid will come back here in a second. But we find out that there's someone who actually saw that encounter between Bruce Wayne and Joe Chill, actually having Joe Chill on his knees, Batman with a gun to his forehead. He couldn't see that this person that's seeing this, couldn't see it was Bruce Wayne from his vantage point, but clearly understood it was Batman. And then saw the Reaper actually kill Joe Chill. The person we find out who actually witnessed all this was Joe Chill's son, Joey Chill. I believe it's Joey Chill. We'll call it Joey Chill, sure. And what Joey Chill was trying to do, he was trying to track down his father. His father, just kind of had him and kind of left his wife, so obviously his mother. Actually, his mother took him away. So he was trying to reconnect with his father, hunting him down. This is where he found him, and he finds him in this kind of state. So the way that Joey Chill is going to get back at both the Reaper and Batman, he's going to adopt the Reaper persona. So he's going to get back at the Reaper by becoming the Reaper himself, and he's going to take out Batman by taking out Batman as the Reaper. Kind of kill two birds with one stone, lack of better terms. So, also we find out this Reaper's not working by himself, Joey Chill. He's actually working in conjunction with his sister. I can't remember her name. We'll just call Marsha. That's right, Marsha Chill. Joseph Chill is Joey Chill's son. Joe Chill. You'll see here in a second. Joseph Chill was Joe Chill's son, who saw Joe Chill get murdered. And then we find out that there's just that little boy I mentioned in the beginning of Full Circle. He's trying to track down his father, and lo and behold, guess what? The person who finds him is Joseph Chill's son, Joey Chill. So now we have Joey Chill, the grandson of Joe Chill, with his father Joseph Chill, who's Joe Chill's son, and then Marcia Chill, the daughter of Joe Chill. So we have a family reunion in all this. But we see Joey realize that he found his father, and he's adopting this Reaper persona. So what actually happens is that throughout the story, the Reaper finds a way to get at Batman, and he finds out the connection that Batman has with Rachel Caspian and Leslie Tompkins. Rachel Caspian, who kind of flees the convent to kind of get away from all the media that's trying to get after her because of her father, connects back with Leslie Tompkins, and the Reaper finds out a way to get at Batman, but we're going to get them, and then once we get them, Batman's going to go to Rachel Caspian's defense, and that's where we're going to take out Batman. We actually see a scene where Marsha, I assume it was Marsha, Joseph Chill's sister, actually gets put Batman in this death trap, where they actually play this this video was actually a recording of Thomas and Martha's death, and they inject him with this poison, which actually induces kind of like the survivor's guilt. So where he's seeing this video. The death trap is if he tries to get off this ledge, there'll be acid underneath, and then this noose will actually hang him. So with the poison that they induced in Batman watching this video, the attempt is to try to get Batman to kill himself. Meanwhile, as this death trap's playing out, guess who's seeing all this? You guessed it, Joey Chill was kind of rooting on his father to take out Batman. There's a twist at the end where you see Marcia, whatever, I think it's just Marcia, trying to actually pull a double cross on her brother. Brother realizes it. She attempts to shoot him, and then he ends up killing her for attempting to kill him. In doing so, opens up a window for Batman to escape. Batman just about has Joey Chill, dead to rights, getting ready to throw him into the acid, but in doing so, we have Joey Chill observing all this falls through a window, which causes Batman to think twice. And we have the end of the Reaper character being brought into the hospital with Joey Chill in tow. We have Rachel Caspian saved. She goes back to the convent. We have the reestablishment as meant to be of the hospital for Leslie Tompkins, and so be the end of the story. That is a really quick, broad stroke of the story for the Reaper in full circle. Overall, the story itself, this is one of those ones where I'm going to sit there and say, in concept, it was pretty cool. In execution, not so much. There was a whole lot, I don't want to say plot contrivances, but there were some things in the story you can just tell just put in place to move the story along, and they really lacked development. One of the big ones was that the Reaper character early on, you can see from a mile away who was the person that was going to be behind. Who's this Reaper character? Who's the person that's behind the mask? You saw that coming a mile away, not even 4 or 5 pages into the story. You're like, yep, that's the Reaper. You can just tell. So the introduction of the Reaper character felt kind of cheap. Almost the biggest one, and it shouldn't really have been that big of a part of the story, but just the way it was executed just felt so bad, was the relationship between Bruce and Rachel. I mean, this was Batman or Bruce being engaged. They were legitimately engaged. But their relationship really wasn't developed at all. So at the very end, when she kind of calls it off, and she stops the engagement, she goes back to the convent. Even the breakup, it was real quick. The breakup was done in just a couple panels. But their relationship really wasn't developed much at all. It was done periodically as the story kind of progressed. But there really was no development in the relationship, which really doesn't enable you to get any big stakes into their relationship as a whole, to be perfectly honest. Batman teaming up with Joe Chill, I just can't buy it. Especially for how long as he did. Okay, initially, maybe. But that would be, I think, very early on into their somewhat of a lives, he wouldn't have took it. Just the idea of teaming up with Joe Chill, going out, shooting people with a gun. He shoots people with a gun and he doesn't kill anybody. It just felt so off. And it didn't seem like a realistic alliance Batman would forge. Make no mistake, as soon as he comes face to face with Joe Chill, that person's done. He's being brought down. Maybe not killed initially, obviously not, but that alliance wouldn't have gone. I can't buy that. The showdown between Joe Chill and Bruce Wayne in Crime Alley, that was pretty much the highlight of the story, but it was kind of ruined at a point where, make no mistake, he was going to kill Joe Chill. He was going to do it. It's just the Reaper shot him before he was able to pull the trigger. So, I don't know. That dynamic just felt weird. Batman in this was just you can just tell early on when he pulls out the gun, he was like a marksman. The way Batman just feels with weapons and guns and handguns, I don't know. It just, it wasn't like central to the story, but it was just in your face a lot. And maybe that one, just kind of accentuate the point. Hey, this is Batman still kind of refining his moral compass in the second year. See, you're here and actually doing target practice. I don't know. It just felt out of character. Just sorry. I do like the concept of the Reaper character. I like the parallels. I like how he was violent. He was definitely a quote unquote Black Mirror to Batman and Bruce Wayne. But just the way it ended, it just felt so abrupt. You got the thing with Joe Chill, and then they go to the top of the building and story end. Yeah. Full circle. The biggest one in that is I just find that so odd that the person that Joseph Chill was just happened to be there to see all this. It just felt really weird. There was just like no segue, no linkage to someone actually seeing that, or at least where the second one, Joey Chill, the little kid, at least you can kind of see the potential connection, but I don't know, just how that connection with the new Reaper felt odd. The other thing that felt kind of weird is the whole movie that Marcia or Marcia, whatever, made Batman watch. That implies someone recorded the death of the Waynes. Just really? Someone videotaped it? Odd. I do like the death trap. It was kind of throwback to Batman 66. That's always nice. But yeah, that felt weird. And then we have Joey Chill just coming up again. The little one now trying to find his father and doing so. Now we have another Reaper. It's just weird. So the writing in itself, dialogue was okay. Just the concept was good. Execution, no. And the whole gun thing, I don't know. Too much. A little too much. The saving grace in this, I thought, was the art. Alan Davis's art. He does all the art in full circle. He does the first issue of Fear the Reaper. But really, I mean, look at that. That's excellent. I don't think this is Todd McFarlane here. But boy, Todd McFarlane. This is early on McFarlane. I mean, jeez Louise. There's just one scene here. Please let me find it. It's him. I think he's in the grave. It just looks, it's a small panel, but golly, does it look nice. Oh, yeah. That is just, I mean, look at that. That's awesome. Awesome. So make no mistake, the best part about this is the art. The violence we actually see with Reaper in the first story, Free the Reaper, was nice and well done. Intense, but not like graphic. Tom McFarlane's art, just awesome. Just everything about it was just great. The second story, the flashbacks you have here, how they had the colorist does a really good job actually showing, the death of the Waynes. So the art in this as a whole was great. You get a lot of story for your buck. This total of $30. You're getting a deluxe version. But get this in single issues. You're getting a lot of content for money. The art was great. Ooh, there we go. Focus camera. Art was great, but this is the case where the writing and the execution kind of let the art down. So overall, Batman Year 2, somewhat. You reading this story, Tomasi's coming back to the Reaper character. So this is not like necessarily one and done. This is a segue to eventually the Reaper coming back at some point. You have to think, just the way this ended. So the good thing about this book is that it gives context to this story. But overall, this on its own, if it wasn't for this, I don't know. I'm gonna give this. Let's say this again is the art. This is like a 2 out of 5. Story for me. If it wasn't for the art, this would kind of like be a 1.5. It's just the execution, the Batman character's lost in this. Because even the moral compass that you might say that might not be fully refined in year 2, it's still there somewhat in context, in year 1. So I think Mike Barr kind of loses, more Batman's moral center in this particular story. So that, and it's not technically in the Batman timeline. So this goes into one where would I recommend this for the art? Yeah, but I don't know. Probably not, to be honest. Batman completionist, yes, for the stories, but beyond that, I don't know. 2 out of 5, but not with my recommendation. So anyway, Batman Year 2. Hate to say this is somewhat of a bummer, but it is, again, great concept. The idea was there, just the way it was executed, and story layout, and execution of the actual intricacies of the story, if you will, and the details, left a lot to be desired. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Batman Year 2. Hit me up in the comments below if you read this. If you have any thoughts you want to share, we'll bat chat and go from there. Got the next Bat book I want to talk about. It's another one around this timeline, when Batman 575, not too long after that was released. 575, Detective 575, Sci 578. So it's going to be one of those pre-New 52 Batman stories we're going to talk a little bit about. We'll bat chat then, go from there. Got a couple other ideas for videos. So until then, take care.